everybody. Today we're going to make a real quick tutorial about how to make this text balloon explosion animation. So the balloon inflates and then it explodes. It's not too hard to do. So I like to think of all these MoGraph techniques as tools that you have in an arsenal. So let's say that the client wants some really complex animation. You can use any sort of tool from the arsenal to accomplish it, whether it be morphs or something like this with the balloon expanding or something with thinking particles. You can combine them together to accomplish what you need for the project. So without further ado, let's go. So here in Cinema 4D, we're gonna first import our text. So I have it here broken down as SVG from Illustrator, and I'm gonna import that in. Create vector object turned on, and then import it. And right now it's very small, so I'm going to try to increase that size maybe to about, I don't know, 50 times its size. There, that looks about right. And give that a shader so we could see it a little bit more clearly. So I'm going to go to right click, go to make editable. So as you can see, that made a group with fills and extrusion objects. So the next thing I'm going to do is give some depth to all these letters. So I go to my extrusion objects, click on them, and increase the offset. And add some subdivisions. And I'm going to turn on my lines so I can see that a little bit clearly. And I think that I want the faces of these letters to have subdivisions too. So there's an easy way you can do that is to go by volume builder, put all these extruded objects into the volume builder, and turn them into voxels. And turn down the voxel size to maybe 2. And then put that volume builder into a mesh builder to remesh it. And now it's going to be loaded with polygons everywhere. So I'm going to try to decrease the amount of polygons by decreasing the adaptive setting here. And that looks about right. So I'm going to delete this group and then go to the volume mesher and click on current state of object. And it's going to make a polygonal object. And then I'm going to hide this volume mesher just so later on, in case we need to make alterations to it, we have that backed up. So I want each one of these letters to be individual objects. The easy way to do that is to Shift C, and I already have it here. It's Polygon Island. Put that in the search box and double click on Polygon Islands to objects. And it makes a group with each one of the letters being a different polygonal object. So here's the A, here's the R, here's the upper part of the O, and here's the lower part of the O. So with that done, I want to make the balloon inflating next. So I select all these polygon objects and I go to simulation and balloon. So as you can see, when I start off and I click play, it just falls. That is because we have gravity turned on. But an easy fix to that is to click on the balloon objects. Under mix animation, click with force. This puts a pin into it and it allows it to stay in place. So to save RAM, I'm going to turn off these lines. And the main thing here that we're going to learn about is overpressure. That's what actually inflates these balloons. So I'm going to set that to around 40. and set the expansion time to around 200. So what I'm saying is going to have a pressure pushing outward of 40, and it's going to take 200 frames to expand. So let's play that and check that out. And that's about the result that I want. Maybe a little bit less on the overpressure. Maybe let's go to 30. And that's about right. As you can see, the objects don't pass through each other. So the next thing I'm going to want to tweak is the stretchiness. Maybe I'll turn that to 10 and set the collision side to both. So what I want to do is have something collide with these letters to cause them to explode. A simple thing to do is to create a platonic and push it to the side and line it up a little bit. So this platonic is going to increase in scale and collide with all these letters to cause it to explode. So let's say I want that to happen around frame 60. I'm going to set keyframes for the platonic around frame 60. So setting a key at this scale and then going into the coordinates and turning that scale to about, oh, let's say 20. Maybe a little bit more, maybe 25 to engulf all the letters. Set a keyframe there. And then 2 frames over, turn the scale back down to 0. Set the keyframe back to 0. So I have the platonic expanding and retracting quickly, kind of like a piercing action. And the next thing that I'm going to want to do is to select all of my balloon tags, go to tearing, cloth tearing, and turn this tear past to maybe around 6,000. So the lower that you set it, it's going to deflate on its own. So the higher that you set it, it's going to be better. And it's going to give us more time before it deflates. So the next thing I'm going to do is turn off the visibility of this platonic and right click on the platonic and add a collider tag to it. So right click simulation collider. And then I'm going to play it and test it out. And there we go. The balloons are being pierced by the platonic. So right now, as you can see, the balloons kind of just float in the air, and I want them to start falling like how they would do in real life. And the reason that they're not falling is that the pin from with force that we added earlier is having an effect. So if I go to around frame 60 and I animate a keyframe on that, it will allow it to start falling. So I take off this with force, set a keyframe around frame 60, and turn that off. Set a keyframe, and now let's play it. And it looks a little bit weird right now, but that's because the calculation is not entirely accurate. So what I'm going to want to do is bake this as an alembic to make sure that I have accurate calculations. So how to do that is very simple. You select all of the dynamic objects, right click, go to bake as an alembic. So baking as an alembic will give it a little bit more accurate of a calculation. And I'm just going to delete all of these dynamic objects and keep these alembic objects and play that. And there we go.